Hello, I am Janelle Reardon. I am an author, a board-certified trauma-informed mental health coach, specializing in marriage and family systems and relationships, and I am the podcast host for today's Heartlift with Janelle. I want to invite you in today. I've been very curious about a subject, reimagining influence. We live in a culture seemingly inundated and obsessed to the point of all wanting to become this big influencer, capital I. Lots of profit to be gained if you are an influencer with big social media followings. And it's been very challenging, and if I'm honest, frustrating, because I can spend hours trying to do that. And for what reason? I've been examining my motives, and I invite you to do that with me today. And I've wanted to really redefine and reimagine, what does it mean in my life to be an influence? Well, the word influence comes from the Latin root influentia, meaning stellar emanation. Big word, but it simply implies a flowing or pouring out of something radiant or exceptionally good. In my community, we call an influencer a heart lifter. May I call you that? A person who stands in the center of their spheres of influence with a healthy sense of self, healthy selfhood, healthy behavior patterns, and healthy communication skills. I believe when we practice this trifecta, these rhythms of life, that our lives become increasingly more meaningful, increasingly more effective, and we bring to our spheres of influence just a very radiant, stellar eminence. We each have an assigned sphere of influence. I believe that wholeheartedly. And the Apostle Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 10:13, "We, however, will not boast beyond proper limits, but will confine our boasting to the sphere of influence, to the sphere of service God himself has assigned to us." A sphere that includes you. Paul is writing to one of his spheres of influence, the church at Corinth. And he's telling them, I will boast about the work we're doing together, because this is the lot, this is the assignment God has given me, for me to work with you and you to work with me. When I was going down this curious investigative path, I found a woman in the book of Acts, Acts 16, verses 11 through 15. Her name was Lydia. 5 little verses written about a woman who seemingly possessed stellar emanation. She was a radiant presence in her community. Well, how do I know that? Well, when we meet her, we find her on the riverbed with a company of women. We don't know how many, but it's a company of women who have come outside of the city gate because they can't find a place within the city gate to congregate freely in this new way of following Jesus. And so they're worshiping, they're praying, they're probably sharing stories they've heard. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, up walks the Apostle Paul and his company of disciples. And Lydia immediately recognizes, and she's like, "Oh my goodness, Paul, you must come teach us. We're so hungry. You must come to my home and teach the community, so that we can have a congregation that's following the ways of Jesus here in Philippi." At first, Paul's like, no. And then I think he got a little alignment with his father's business and said yes. Paul goes back, spends time there, and all of a sudden, we have this home church that now becomes the fellowship, the congregation, the church community at Philippi. All because a woman and her company of women were sitting faithfully and worshiping and trying to follow God. Love it so much. Well, I learned from her, I read through the lines, influencers guard their hearts and give time, energy, and sacred space to their interior life. The interior life is that inner journey of our faith, the deep places, our soul, our mind, our emotions, our intellect, our will. And just like Jesus modeled for us in his mission here on earth, crowds, throngs of people clamoring and calling out for him, heal me, help me, teach me this, that, the other, do more, do more. his disciples were like, you need to do this. You need to have this meeting. You need to have that meeting. And Jesus was like, I got to go get with my Father in a quiet place. We can call that the secret place. And it was there at a lake or a mountain or in a boat where he would realign himself with his Father's business. What is it that you want me to do? I know you have a strategic plan. And he would hear that, and then he would have his plan, and he would know that not everybody's business was his business. The need was not the call. I hear that echoing back to us. But we have to go away. We have to manage, and we have to nurture our interior life so we can align ourselves with the one true God and find out what it is he wants us to do. What sphere do you want me to go into? Influencers gather with other like-minded influencers to grow in grace and wisdom and spiritual unity. Lydia was pouring out herself. That's what we infer from that. She was not just about building Lydia's kingdom. She wanted to grow this way of Jesus so that more and more people could hear and understand the truth. Influencers empower those in their community. They believe power becomes infinite and expands when shared with others. It's not about having power over people. That goes to influencers leading well. They want to have power with and power within so that we can then collaborate with others and not compete or compare. We want to actually bring everybody to the table, everybody's gifts, and then with this synergy, we don't just advance our own kingdom, we advance the kingdom of God. And I believe that is my sole purpose for being here. It's gotten blurry through the years, trust me, because I think our ego with a capital E can really take over in our lives. But we're here today to learn how to take and rein that in so that we can help now collaborate and build a kingdom, the kingdom of God together. We're so much stronger together. Influencers guide their community to the one true influencer. It's not about building up your own platform. It's about building up the platform of the advancing of the kingdom of God. Who is in your sphere of influence? I ask you once again, maybe take a pause, take a breath. Who have you been strategically and intentionally designed by God to give your gifts, talents, time, energy, space, money, all? Who are you serving? Remember this, it isn't important to be the best, but to become our best. Living in this profound truth, this paradigm shift alleviates the need to compete with anyone. And it alleviates our need to strive for perfection or to climb any type of ladder of success or notoriety. It is the way. It's the best way. So let's collaborate. I would love to work with you and work side by side, heart to heart. Let's join forces. Let's do it. I have a little gift for you today. You can receive that gift on my website. How is my everyday life? A guide to a little soul searching. I want to give you a little help on maybe, like me, shifting from the confusing messages of a very crowded world so that you can know your strategic, intentional mission here. You can just go to my website and you will see it. Thanks so much for your time. And remember, always remember this, you are a heart lifter and you are clothed in strength and dignity with nothing to fear, but you can really smile at your future because it's going to be a good one.